There are people who confuse ghosts with the spirit of the deceased, and some others think that ghosts are the souls of the deceased who are grieving. In both cases, they are wrong. What we call ghosts is nothing other than the personality of each of us. There are two types of ghosts: the ghosts of living people and the ghosts of the deceased. To better understand each type of materialization of a ghost of a living person and materialization of a ghost of a deceased person. The following story told by the occultist Samael Aoun-Weor, where we can see what the materialization of a ghost belonging to a living person is like. One night I was lying in my bed dozing when suddenly someone knocked on my door 3 times. Just as I sat down to get up and go out to the door, I felt a pair of hands that caressed my face. In addition to those hands appeared a whole human ghost with the clear semblance of that girlfriend called Angela, and from whom I had walked away without saying goodbye. Frankly, I was not interested. The anguished ghost cried, telling me phrases like these: "Ungrateful, you walked away without saying goodbye to me, and I loved you so much and adored you with all my heart." I wanted to speak, but everything was useless because my tongue got stuck. So I mentally ordered that ghost to leave immediately. New regrets, new recriminations, and then he told me, "I'm leaving then," and walked away slowly. When I saw that apparition leaving, a special thought arose in my understanding. I said to myself, this is the moment to know what a ghost is, what it is made of, what is real about it. It is obvious that when I thought this way, my fear disappeared and my tongue became unstuck. Then I was able to speak, and I ordered the ghost like this: "No, don't leave. Come back. I need to talk to you." The ghost responded, "Well, I'll go back. That's fine then." It is worth stating that the word was accompanied by action, and the ghost came to me again. The first thing I did was examine my own faculties to see if they were working correctly. I'm not drunk, I told myself. I'm not hypnotized. I'm not the victim of any hallucination. My 5 senses are correct. I have no reason to doubt. Once I was able to verify the proper functioning of my 5 senses, I then proceeded to examine the ghost. "Give me your hand," I told the apparition. It is evident that she did not refuse my demand and extended her right hand to me. I took the arm of the singular figure in front of me, and I could notice a normal rhythmic march as if it had a heart. I listened to the liver, spleen, etc., and everything was going correctly. However, the quality of that matter seemed more like protoplasm, a gelatinous substance sometimes similar in touch to vinyl. I did that exam under the light of a properly lit light bulb, and it lasted something like half an hour. Then I dismissed the ghost, saying, "You can leave now. I am satisfied with the exam." And the ghost, making multiple recriminations, left crying bitterly. I wrote down the day, date, and time of the event, and later I met that girlfriend. I told her my story. She limited herself to saying that on that night, and at that time mentioned by me, she slept and dreamed that she was in a place on the coast and was talking to me in a room similar to a living room. It's clear, I told myself. The lady went to bed thinking about me, and her ghost visited me. The curious thing was that several months later, that lady died, and while I was resting in my bed one night, the phenomenon was repeated. But this time, that ghost decided to lie down next to me, full of tenderness and affection. However, this was becoming quite ugly. I had no choice but to very severely order him to retire forever and never bother me in my life. The ghost did so and never returned. Story of the materialization of a ghost of a deceased lady. They say that at a party, a certain lady knew how to distinguish herself by her immense joy, since she obviously stood out among all the guests for her jovial character and her physical beauty. Many young people danced with her until 3 in the morning, at which time the lady stated that she was very cold. One of his admirers lent him a jacket to keep him warm. Then, like a complimented gentleman, he offered to accompany her home. The lady did not decline such chivalrous attention, and therefore left the feast room. In a fast car, The lady, accompanied by the young man who offered her his company and by some other male friends of the latter, arrived at the door of her house. The companions said goodbye to the aforementioned lady as she entered her home. The next day, the gentleman who owned the article of clothing lent to the lady along with his friends, knocked on the door of that mansion with the obvious purpose of recovering the article. An old woman opened the door while asking, "What do you guys want?" One of the young men said, "We come for a jacket that I lent last night to the lady who lives here." The old woman said, "Oh, if you want that article of clothing, you should go look for it in the cemetery. You will find it on my granddaughter's grave. She was the lady who danced with you last night. Many years ago he died." The young men, those alarmed, certainly went to the cemetery, looked for the lady's tomb and found it, and on the ladder they found the jacket. According to the story, I think you will be able to understand that what became visible at the dance, that the ghost who asked to borrow the article of clothing, was the personality of the dead woman. Only in this way can we explain the reason why such a garment was found precisely over the tomb. The personality is energetic, therefore it cannot be seen with the physical eyes. However, those people who have a little extra perception will be able to see it clearly, or as in this previous case, when the ex-personality of the deceased is deeply rooted in the physical world, it becomes easily tangible in the sight of anyone. The ghost or ex-personality of the deceased enters and leaves the tomb and little by little dissolves among the cemetery. It does not have a future. It is a child of time and dies in its time. While this happens, the ghost wanders and visits everyone. Those places that he visited in life, he usually sits in the dining room of his house, walk through the streets, visit restaurants, order his favorite dish, and consume the etheric part of said delicacy. In Mexico, the Day of the Dead is celebrated on November 2nd. It is customary for relatives to take to the tomb those dishes that the disembodied person liked the most. If at the end of the celebration, someone consumes said food, they may notice that the vital part is missing. This is because the disembodied person has consumed the etheric part of said delicacy. When relatives visit the grave, the ex-personality of the deceased is strengthened by clinging more to the physical world. The most advisable thing is to cremate the remains of our loved ones. In this way, the ex-personality dissolves faster. After all, there is no tomorrow for it. It is a child of time and dies in its time.